Okay, in this video, I'm going to show you what I had done in order to create the Photoshop version of the car where everything looked a little bit nice. The first thing you need to do is straighten it out, which was the rotate tool that I used to kind of flip it up. But now you've got that awkward area where there's no picture left, so that's why I'm cropping it here, cut it out nicely, and there's the image that I decided to start with. The first tool that you're going to be using is called the Spot Healing Brush tool. You should have read about it in that Word document that I put together. It's very useful for doing small corrections, and I told you how it worked as well. With this brush, you can do an awful lot of cleanup on the picture, but you do need to be careful that you don't overdo some of the things, because it's very easy to blend things together and lose a lot of what you want to see. This is going to remove a lot of texture if you're not careful, so don't overuse this tool, okay? And you'll see me kind of doing something and hitting Control Z and trying to forget about it because I made a mistake, that sort of stuff. So go through, clean up as much as you can with this tool because it is very effective. Now, when I got to here, I wanted to remove the rag from the grill of this car, and man, I wanted to make it look good. And the way that I did that is by using the clone tool. And this clone tool, again, as you should have already read, will take a snapshot of exactly what is underneath it and then allow you to put that brush, that exact layer of pixels wherever you want it to go. So I copy a bit of the radiator, whatever it's called, the grill from higher up, and then I bring it down and I then paste it. Or, I click and then I put it down there, and then those pixels, that information stays there. And that allows me to kind of reconstruct this whole radiator. And you have to be careful with it, obviously. And I think I pause in just a little second to show you. You can start to see where all those little circles end up. Right? You can see the outside of where I've copied and stuff like that. So the shading is very tricky to get right, which is why I spend so much time and care. And then with the outsides of the circles and stuff like that, I do want to fix that all up, and I do that afterwards. Like I get the grill roughly where I want it to be, and then I'll get a smaller brush and then I'll copy some things and paste other things around to kind of get rid of a lot of the more obvious things. And then afterwards I'll come in with the heal tool, or I'll use the burn tool or some other tools, and I will do what I can to, again, make it look as natural as possible, which is very difficult to do. And you'll see, even when I'm done, it doesn't look that great. This is the blur tool. This is the blur, so I just kind of smudge or blur some of the outside effects. So it causes everything to kind of just lighten and darken. It gets rid of any extremes. So if you've got a really obvious edge because of the lighting thing, if you blur the edge there, it should cause it to be less obvious. And yeah, I just take smaller samples of things and I copy, and I just try to kind of blend everything to look as natural as possible. Through the editing of this, I'm not going to have you suffer through me singing again. As funny as that was, I also respect the fact that you had to listen to it, and that would suck. So yeah, so you can see the level of care that this takes. And honestly, before I edited this video, this was about 25 minutes of me doing Photoshop, and I did a very, very, what I would say, poor job on it. So I could have done a significantly better job. But in the image that I had on my Word document, I did that in the Photoshop tool that we have installed on the computers at the lab, and it legitimately took me probably the better part of a couple hours. I'm talking 3 or 4 hours to get it to that point. So that's why it does look fairly good. And you can still even then see some of the mistakes, right? So through here, this section here, I do a lot of copying to try to line up the bottom of the doors there, because you can see where the door panels end. And I tried to copy some area around that with those lines so I could preserve that. I also tried to do the same with the door, the line that the front door has in the middle of the body, and it totally didn't work. So what I ended up doing is use this burn tool to kind of burn a line straight down, which would sort of show where the door is. And I first chose way too wide of pixels, so then I did it again. And I obviously did a pretty bad job there because that's not remotely close to straight. It's all curvy and stuff. But whatever, right? It was close enough. I could blur through that to kind of make it look more natural. I'm trying to again, use the healing tool as much as I can to make it look okay. Here I'm getting rid of the shadow because originally I was going to just cut the fence out completely with Photoshop, and I realized that it's difficult and would take a long time to get to look natural. So what I ended up doing is just cropping it out, which you can do that as well. Or if you want a challenge, because it is something which is really hard to do, to nicely Photoshop that out, because then you've got to reconstruct the back end of the car and the back end of the tire, right? It's a good challenge, but it's not going to be 100% necessary. But yeah, and then I just kind of finish it all up by, yeah, this is wasted effort because I cropped this part out anyways. But yeah, that is how to roughly use that. Please watch the YouTube video that I linked in the Word document, because it very nicely shows you not just the tricks that I showed you, but other tricks as well. So that's all for today. Enjoy photoshopping this. You will have a fair amount of time to work on this because it is something which should take you a fairly long time. Okay? Take care of yourselves, guys.